So today we are lucky enough to have John Robinson here with us, and today he'll be talking a little bit about Denmark Vesey. So John, can you tell us a little bit about his origin story? Like, how did this story start?
He was born in 1767 in St. Thomas, actually. So he's a West Indian. Okay. Or from the West Indies. He was born in 1767. He actually won his freedom in 1799 by playing a lottery. He won $1,500, or maybe it was $1,600, something along those lines, and won his freedom. And from that point on, he became a freedman. Now, unfortunately, he was not able to purchase his son or his children or his wife out of slavery. Also, he had friends who were also slaves. So the rebellion actually, and I'm not sure everything that went on because there was kind of a burying of the history of Denmark Vesey, but from what scholars have been able to kind of unearth, the planning of the rebellion actually began in 1821, and the execution of the rebellion was actually going to happen in about 1822.
So, wow, that's like he planned it, and then a year later he was ready to implement his plan. You know, that's crazy. So, and this is probably going to sound like one of those dumb questions, but why was it so important, to have a rebellion? I mean, obviously we understand, the harshness of slavery, but can you just tell us, like, why is rebellion probably, like so important and something that we don't normally hear about in our history?
Right. So no, that's a great question. I mean, rebellion was really important back then, but also it's important when we're actually looking back at the historicity and the actual significance of it. But back then, I mean, I think that Denmark Vesey was actually compelled because of the fact that, hey, look, I'm doing the best that I can. I got my own freedom. He started, I think he was like a carpenter or something along those lines, and he started working. He had his successful business people around Charleston, South Carolina, which is where he won his freedom, which was also one of the largest slave ports in the Americas. But around there, people liked him. Both blacks and whites actually liked him. He was a respected business person and did really well. He did not do well enough to be able to buy his family's freedom or his friends' freedom. So I think that he was, part of the significance is, he didn't necessarily have to do this because he himself was good. He was fine, he was established, he had money, he had business, but his relatives, his friends, the people closest to him, the ones that he loved, they were still bound in this chattel slave system.
So, all right, let's go right into it, man. What is it that he actually did? What was his plan, and how did it unfold?
Okay, so the plan basically was he had contacted, at the time, the person who was in charge of, who was ruling Haiti. So he contacted them. So he had Haitians ready to arm up. He had contacted over in Africa because he was able to actually speak 3 different languages. So he spoke English, he spoke Spanish, he spoke French. Also, he probably spoke Creole because he spent some time in Haiti and Barbados and some of the other islands as well. So he was able to kind of absorb things. So he was able to connect not only based off of languages, but also religious affiliations. Even though he was a Christian by faith and by practice, he also pulled down those denominational religious barriers so he could actually talk to people of Muslim faith, of different kind of religions, and find a commonality of humanity within all of that. So he was able to break down the languages, break down the religions, and kind of be able to coalesce around the idea of freedom. And just talking with different people, he was able to start forming a coalition that they say probably was about close to 9,000 people were ready to arm. Now, what he was going to do, Denmark Vesey, was on the given day, and it was going to be sometime in the summer of 1822, on the given day, or a given night actually, the people that were in kind of cahoots with him, they were going to rise up and slaughter the white residents of Charleston, South Carolina. Now, the main targets for the slaughtering were going to be the slave holders, the slave traders, the people who were in charge of the ports and the docks where the slave ships would come in, people in charge of some of these bigger plantations and everything. So the plan was to slaughter them, and then also to hop on ships to go out to Haiti, actually, where the folk in Haiti were ready for him. So.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, man, and it's real good. You talk about his connection with Haiti specifically, because Haiti was one of the first places, if not the only place in the world, that ever had a revolution where the people took over the country and became their own nation. So, wow, man, like, why didn't this work? What happened?
Well, there were actually two slaves at the time who were very much loyal to their masters.
House slaves?
Yeah, they were house slaves,
wow.
Absolutely. So they were very much loyal to their masters, even though they were under a similar bondage of slavery and of course, white supremacy and that sort of thing. And they got wind of of what was going to happen, the rebellion. Now, what happened was they ended up going to the mayor at the time of Charleston. Obviously, they went to their masters and let them know what the plan was, what the plot was. They weren't necessarily sure about the exact date, but they knew that it was going to happen in the summertime. So in June of 1822, around one of the dates in June, they actually went and kind of exposed this plot. And because those two slaves actually had a really good rapport with their masters and were considered to be upstanding slaves, the mayors went and they believed the master, or they believed the slaves, and that's how it was. And they rounded everybody up who was called out in that plot, including Denmark Vesey and some of his officers, and they started trying them and ended up hanging them. Great.
And you're giving us a lot of jewels, man, a lot of stuff to actually think about, and this is very, very, very good. So, lastly, I think, what we would want to understand is that, you're a person in the community, and I'm sure, you understanding this history, it's motivated you to do the things that you do. What are some of the things that you're doing currently to make our community a better place?
Absolutely. So, I do have a company. It's called Gotta Go Gaming, and it's an entertainment company. It's a video game company, mobile company. But one of the things that I'm doing is I'm using it also to. So it's a trailer. It has video games in it. Kids love it. Teens love it. All that kind of stuff. But one of the things that I'm doing is hooking up with different charity organizations so that we can bring that mobile experience to them free of charge. Because, and this is specifically for urban areas, places where there's economic disparity, economic depravity, socioeconomic issues. So these kinds of areas, we want to really bring our business in and do as much charity work as possible. But also lining up with Bless, which is a grassroots organization, blacks law enforcement, servicing the community. But also with the Royal Men Foundation, they have to do, and both have to do with community building. So we try to line up with those different organizations so that we can add value not only to the organization but also to the community at large. I think that one of the lessons that we can learn from Denmark Vesey is that that even though Denmark Vesey was in a position where he didn't have to do this, he didn't have to get hung, he didn't have to do any of that kind of stuff. He was free. He was free. He could, he could have a wife, he could have different ones, he could have kids, he could do whatever. He had a successful business, but he still felt compelled because there was oppression going on. And so for me, I don't have to do a lot of the things that I do, but I feel compelled. I feel compelled to do charity work. I feel compelled to be with grassroots organizations that are about building the community and edifying people. I feel compelled going against oppression in any form that I can. So, there you go.
That's awesome, man. And this is once again, man, John Robinson. We're gonna ask you just real quickly, just to give us, one word or something insightful, before we wrap this up. And I wanted to thank you once again for definitely taking the time to, educate us on some of our history.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just say, Jesus said to love your neighbor as yourself. Whether you are a religious person or you're not, it really doesn't matter. That same thing should apply. When we look at humanity, how we treat one another, the same love that I give to my children should be the same extension of mercy and of grace that I should give to somebody that I don't know. Jesus also said, do to others as you would want them to do to you. So just in the same way, I'm sure Denmark Vesey and some of the other ones wouldn't have wanted to be enslaved. Their oppressors, if they were really good church-going folk or people that were of good morality, they would have said, well, I wouldn't want to be enslaved. Do to others as you would want them to do to you. That's the same message that I carry, and that's the same message that I try to relate when I'm out there in the community building.
Well, thank you very much, John. We definitely appreciate you, and we appreciate your time. To everyone else, this has been 28 Days of Blackness. Stay tuned for the next episode.